The SEC, ACC, Power 5, and more. It's the Afternoon Drive with Jake Wimberly.
Let's go dominate, man. Have some fun. Here we go.
On ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
Friday edition of the program. Glad to be with you inside the Ameristar Casino Studios as we move towards the weekend. We're streaming on the zone1059.com. Make sure to get the podcast. We'll have up today's show tonight or tomorrow. You can find that on Amazon, iTunes, Podbean, all the podcasting software and platforms out there. We're brought to you by Gutter Masters. Go to their website, guttermastersllc.com. Get protected today. Custom gutter solutions on your home or commercial building, 601-503-7755. Connor O'Gara on your radio, national senior columnist for Saturday Down South and Saturday Tradition. Connor, welcome in, brother. How are you?
I'm doing well. You know, bowl season is officially underway. Life is good. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Can't complain.
Yeah, it is. And I want to get your thoughts on the college football playoff here in a bit. I do want to kind of not necessarily dive into National Signing Day again, but just kind of talk about the trajectory of some of these SEC teams. So Texas A&M, let's go there first. They populate now number one, 247sports.com recruiting rankings, just ahead of Alabama and Georgia. And now they've got transfer quarterback Max Johnson from LSU coming in. Is this team, I don't want to say that, are they positioning themselves to finally be the team that can possibly take Alabama? They did get them on the field this year, but the spotlight continues to grow on everything going on in College Station. And I would figure sooner rather than later, Jimbo Fisher is going to have to make all of this pay off at some point.
Yeah, this is what you would hope a coach with a 10-year, $95 million contract, whatever it is, guaranteed would do going into year 5. I mean, this is exactly the way that you need to build a championship-level team. Now, Jimbo Fisher has won a championship, and so theoretically, 1 + 1 = 2. But the issue, and what we saw this past year, is that Jimbo is just not the best at troubleshooting. We saw with the backup quarterback this year, couldn't do it. We saw back in 2017, DeAndre Francois goes down season opener against Alabama. Season falls apart. Now, there were foundation issues there at Florida State that aren't there at Texas A&M. That's the good news. But now you look at the situation moving forward and you say, all right, Jimbo has set himself up well. If he doesn't succeed, he's got nobody to blame but himself, to borrow a line from Chris Stapleton. So this is now a situation in which if you're an A&M fan, you're like, all right, let's go. I don't care that we're 8-4. You can make all the Kevin Sumlin comparisons you want. Jimbo Fisher is recruiting at a higher level than Kevin Sumlin did. And now you should be in position where yearly you should be competing for top 3 classes. You should be getting to a New Year's Six Bowl. And this is the new standard in College Station. I think Jimbo has done everything you could have asked him to do in terms of the off-the-field stuff to get talent in the door.
Connor O'Gara is on your radio, Friday edition of the program, talking SEC football. Kentucky, and again, we're seeing guys play at a higher rate. It should be younger, at a younger clip at a higher rate, so to speak. You're seeing freshmen play a lot. You're seeing sophomores definitely play and get on the field. And we know, of course, the transfer portal is gobbling guys up if they're not playing immediately. But Kentucky, Mark Stoops quietly, 11th ranked recruiting class in the country, 20 commitments and a couple transfers. Man, he just continues to, I hate to use the term brick by brick, but that's kind of what he's doing in Lexington.
It's darn impressive. It really is. And there are a lot of people that are going to look and say, same old Kentucky. It was pretty lame seeing Kentucky on College game day, and people are like, Kentucky is a football program? It's like, all right, so you're just telling on yourself that you haven't been watching Mark Stoops for the last 5 years, because he's been building a legitimate football program, and you watch what transfers were able to do immediately at that program. Will Levis, Wan'Dale Robinson, 2 guys who come in, and they're difference makers for that team. And now Wan'Dale Robinson is the highest graded receiver in the country by Pro Football Focus, and is probably going to go to the NFL and make some money. And so, yeah, the fact that he's recruiting isn't necessarily a big surprise. Vince Morrow, a big part of that. And I think now you look at the situation, just like with Jimbo, you say, this is exactly what you would want. This is how you elevate yourself. This is how you get to that number 2 level in the SEC East. By the way, that spot is up for grabs with Florida going through its own rebuild. So I applaud the job that he's done. If you're not paying attention to Mark Stoops, you absolutely should be.
And then you got Eli Drinkwitz, who is, quietly moved Missouri to number 12 this year, and they go out and grab Luther Burden, 5-star wide receiver, number 1 receiver in the country, number 3 prospect overall. And I was talking about this. I know you'll remember this. Gary Pinkel used to somewhat do this when he was coming through the Big 12, and then Missouri walked in and won a couple of Eastern championships. He would have a couple of skill guys that could flat out get it. And it looks like Drinkwitz, who gets a 4-star quarterback out of Georgia, a big-time wide receiver, a 4-star running back, a 4-star defensive lineman, and an edge rusher. He is quietly doing, putting some nice pieces together in Missouri as well.
Eli Drinkwitz can recruit. There's no mistake about it. I mean, you saw the video that went viral a couple of years ago, then Dennis Rakestraw, and that went viral because he was down to Mizzou in Alabama. And Eli Drinkwitz is sitting there having not coached a game at Mizzou yet. And he's like, able to get this kid to go to Mizzou. And that was a really big deal because it wasn't that Bama lacked interest or anything like that. So now you're looking at this class moving forward, and you're saying, well, all right, what did he add? He added the number 1 receiver in the class, Luther Burden, the guy who took a visit to Georgia, and then 4 days later is like, yeah, I'm going to Mizzou. I'm staying relatively local, an East St. Louis kid. And now you get somebody that you feel like you can build an offense around. I mean, he's 6 feet tall, kind of plays inside, outside, does a little bit of everything for you, and they need dudes like that. Now, they got to figure out their quarterback situation. They can't have it be a yearly thing where they just give their back 25 touches a game. That's what it's been the first 2 years. And I credit Eli Drinkwitz for actually recognizing that adjustment. But if they can get that quarterback situation figured out, and that's a big if, Eli Drinkwitz is going to be able to elevate Mizzou, and they're going to be a yearly 8-4 type of team.
Connor O'Gara talking SEC football, Friday edition of the program. All right, Lane Kiffin, Matt Corral will play in the Sugar Bowl. That's a heck of a feat. Ole Miss can get to 11 wins if they get the victory over Baylor. But then what is next? That's the big question. Not a quarterback in this class. He has a couple on campus, a lot of rumors of the transfer portal, but we're seeing a lot of the big boys, so to speak. Already they've claimed homes in South Carolina and other places as well. Is it the transfer portal? Will the next quarterback at Ole Miss be, is he still in the transfer portal that'll start next year?
My guess is yes, and I really had liked the Dylan Gabriel fit, and then Jeff Levy goes to Oklahoma. So I think that if he had stayed there, that would have been so interesting, a little UCF reunion. But I think that we're probably looking at a situation where Lane Kiffin is going to dip into the transfer portal, and I would have liked to see Miles Brennan pursue that opportunity. But this is a major juncture for Lane Kiffin. Is he going to go with somebody like Bo Nix? I mean, that's a legitimate question that people are asking. I know that David Johnson reported that they've had contact with him, and I think that that's a situation now where you'd say, wow, well, if anybody can fix Bo Nix, I guess it would be Lane Kiffin, right? But
sure.
I think that you would tend to go to the transfer portal if you're Lane Kiffin and not hopefully have to rebuild and have this big learning curve for your new quarterback.
All right, Mike Leach brings in another haul of wide receivers, another quarterback out of the state of Texas. Are you in the camp that, there was some prior to the season that said, hey, this whole air raid thing in the SEC is just not going to work. And then Will Rogers has a phenomenal year in Starkville. They'll have a Texas Tech reunion coming up here at the Liberty Bowl on the 28th of December. But are you now of the belief that this thing is really starting to look like a Mike Leach team as far as offensively, that the air raid actually can work on Saturdays in the SEC?
Oh, there's no doubt. And it improved because the offensive line play finally got to the level where it needed to be, where they can block a 3-man pass rush. And Will Rogers took those next steps. He's going to come back as one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football next year. And you look at the year 2 bump, I mean, they improved by 10 points per game. That is what Leach has done at everywhere that he has been. And you were hoping to see that at Mississippi State. It took a little bit longer than maybe some Bulldog fans were hoping for, but at the same time, you got there, you've got your quarterback, you've been able to get receivers from the transfer portal as well. That's where Mike Leach is going to be able to do a lot of damage, I think. And I absolutely think the air raid can work in the SEC. Now, it's not going to work every week, and it might be a bit of a roller coaster, but they're going to be able to have some success. And I think they had kind of the year that they were at least hoping for from a realistic standpoint.
All right, the playoff will be here before you know it. Georgia, still licking their wounds, so to speak. And everybody's asking the question, or at least making the statement that, look, Georgia just can't do this with Stetson Bennett. Alabama, they're going to be missing John Mechie 3. Is Alabama the predominant favorite, or do you still give Georgia a puncher's chance, or do you like someone like, say, even Michigan to take the title, so to speak, or is it all about Alabama right now?
No, I think it has to be about Alabama, because if Kirby Smart's not going to make that adjustment, what suggests that we're going to see something different part 3? We saw the same exact final score with Stetson Bennett. If you're going to run it back with that, I mean, what's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results? I can't imagine that Georgia's going to get a different result if Stetson Bennett goes out there and plays again. Now, if he does make that adjustment, that changes Georgia's trajectory. If JT Daniels is the guy, if he gets some reps against Michigan, but I think Stetson Bennett is going to start against Michigan. And I think ultimately JT Daniels is only going to play if Stetson Bennett struggles and they're on the ropes. And that's a really tough thing to look at and say, yeah, Georgia can still win a national championship. I think Bama has the best path to win a national championship. I think we've already seen what they can do against Georgia. I would love their chances against Michigan. I think that Cincinnati matchup is tricky because of Kobe Bryant, Sauce Gardner, what they have in the defensive backfield, and they can give them some problems, but I would still say that Alabama deserves to be the favorite right now.
Make sure you give him a follow on Twitter at CJ O'Gara. Check him out. He is the host of the SDS podcast. Make sure to follow them. Grab the podcast, SaturdayTradition.com. He's Connor O'Gara. Connor, I appreciate you, man. Always have a great Christmas coming up, and happy holidays. We'll do it again very soon.
Sounds good. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks so much. Connor O'Gara on the Malone Roofing Caller Line, brought to you by Golf on the Go. Get the app on the Android or iPhone device. Go to golfonthego.com. Play golf when you want it, where you want it.